Welcome to NeuroNoodle's Open Mic, raw and real mental health chats. I'm your host, Pete Jansons, joined by Joshua Moore, Anthony Ramos, and John Mekrut. Think of this as your local mental wellness and technology pub where folks drop by to chat, share their thoughts, and dive into candid discussion. We're here to talk about everything from neurofeedback to the latest in mental health tech, and we do it all unfiltered and unscripted. Grab a drink, find a comfy spot, and join the conversation. Let's get real. The NeuroNoodle Network podcast is brought to you by listeners and viewers just like you. John's right there.
I made it.
Yeah,
Excellent.
I was looking for his AOL disc.
No, I had my traditional. You know what it is? It's got to be Spectrum. It's not my computer or my router. They're high. They're high end. It's got to be my upload speed through Spectrum. It has to be.
Man, you'd think they'd have that fixed.
Well, every time I do a speed test, and I do them occasionally, I get this, 12 gigabytes per second download speed, 4 kilobytes a second upload speed.
Oh my gosh.
No, I'm kidding. But I mean, the disparity is huge. I mean, it's common because most people don't upload very often. They mostly download. I get it.
Yeah.
So you want to maximize your download speed. So they advertise this incredible download speed, which is all true. Mm-hmm. It's like 56 megabytes per second. I mean, it's a lot.
Are you on fiber? Just so I know, or
no? It's Anthony, I don't know. There could be squirrels going around underneath my house. I have no idea.
Is it possibly that you answered a email from Geek Squad?
It's possible.
For an unpaid invoice?
It's possible. I did answer. Anthony sent me something about scammers. I answered it back. Is this really Anthony Ramos?
Yeah.
He said, send me $100 to Venmo and you'll find out.
You're not talking to me. This is a deep fake.
Exactly. Oh my
I'm in
God.
Asia right now. No, but it's funny because I was about to talk about the cable companies and that story I told you, John, about calling Cox.
Yeah.
Pete, I had to call Cox. We call them all the time. I used the number saved in my phone, which I'm very organized about that. So the first thing I hear is Cox picks up. They're like, "Hello, we are now offering Life Alert bracelets. Please press 2 if you are interested or over 65." So of course I press the opposite button, and it rings a little bit, and then an American woman picks up and she goes, "Hey, this is Christine. You have been selected to enter our Life Alert sweepstakes." And I think to myself, gosh, they're really pushing these because in our town, our cable company sell mobile phones now. They sell wireless. So I'm thinking they're desperate, right? So it's like, look, I don't want Life Alert. Just direct me to tech support. She goes, "Okay, well, just a second while I get your info down for your bracelet." So I go, "No, that's not." And I hang up. And I realized, so there was a tweet I had seen from a startup guy a few days ago. And what he said was, just got a tour of a new data center that's going to be using ChatGPT LLMs plus deepfake technology to do automated cold calling for telemarketers. So I realized, Pete, I know that I did not speak to a real person, that was, and you know what the tip-off was they were American and they picked up instantly. I didn't have any wait. And more than that, I Googled the number. That number, the only number, it's the number saved in my phone that I've used before. Every link leads to China. All the characters, there's no English writing, it's Chinese writing if you Google this number. I literally think what these companies are doing is Cox changed their number. They're looking for companies that change their number. They're buying it and they're intercepting it.
Yep.
I think that's literally what happened. And so it got me really worried. And I know John was like, how do we stop this? And it made me think about the mental health angle. So, and I have links now about that.
What is the angle?
Well, the angle is, so cognitive impairment is one. It's not an accident they're picking on the elderly. But also, this was the new, right before I got on with you guys, it says Gen Z is 3 times more likely to fall prey to an online scam than the boomers. And
that one blew me away. I got to tell you,
Yep.
I'm a boomer. I'm like, really? I'm less susceptible than Gen Z who grew up in this shit? I'm stunned by that.
Exactly. Nobody could believe it when I told them. And so you read the article and they talk to, these university professors and industry people. And anyway, they said, we think, so Gen Z is online more. So there's more.
I was just going to say, I think I'm more cynical about online experience than somebody Gen Z.
but that's that they said is, so these kids are being raised on iPads. We know
Sure.
the iGen, Mari's,
Sure.
all that stuff. So I think they may trust it more. That's what they said. They may,
Exactly. Exactly.
and they don't care about security.
No,
And that's
no, they
worrisome, or they
absolutely
care
don't.
less.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they really don't.
And
What
so,
my daughter is willing to put up on the internet just baffles me. I
but I,
mean, this is nothing
no, yeah.
outrageous. Let me assure anybody who happens to hear this, it's nothing
Oh,
bad.
yeah.
But their sense of privacy is very different than mine is.
I think you're right. I think, I don't know. I don't know what's happening per se with them, but I do know obviously the elderly are being targeted.
Yeah.
And I have two stories about people, family friends and things. This is the worst one. I'm talking to a friend via text. He's a UF professor. And I was like, "How you doing, man?" He's like, I'm not doing too well." Why is that?" "Oh, well, I was in my parents' house this week, and my dad had left his computer open, and I realized he's having an affair. He's having an emotional affair." So, and he's like, and more than that, I think he gave this woman money.
Money, oh God.
He sent her $50,000. Okay.
Holy
The dad is successful. The dad was a successful engineer, okay, in his 70s now. So then the next week I said, "Hey man, how you doing? How you doing with everything?" He goes, "Not good." I was like, "Why?" He goes, Dude, we found out the woman, she does not exist. If you look
Right,
her up, you get a stock photo. She's supposedly a woman in Spain. She doesn't exist.
right.
Not only that, he's given more money than we thought. We think he's
Oh,
given $500,000 to
oh
this
my
woman.
God. It's some
It
fat
gets
guy it's some fat guy in Slovenia.
exactly, or yes, or everywhere, anywhere. And then the last thing,
Sorry,
dude,
Slovenia.
and this is obviously an extreme story. I couldn't believe this, but the man is, I know some of his career background. Apparently, they think he may have given as much as $1.5 million to this woman
Oh my
online. And so
God.
when I heard that, I said to myself, I said, this is why I think it is a mental health angle. I don't believe that this is simply, oh, well, anybody can be scammed or whatever. Yes, we can all be scammed, but I
Yeah.
just think it takes a lot, or it should take a lot, for someone to give all this money away. And John Oliver just did a report on these online scams. And he has people that are meeting people on dating apps. And these are back to the Gen Z. These are young people. They're meeting people on dating apps. They're having this kind of text relationship, never meet the person. And then the person says, "I'm good at investing." And they start sending their money. And he interviewed these people that were, not only did this woman give all her money to this man she's never met, but she got her dad involved, and she
Oh
gave
my
him.
God.
And
Oh my
the
God.
Vox article, by the way, last bit, it says that the young are most susceptible to crypto scams.
I was
That's
just going
not
to
just
say I've
fake.
gotten
Yeah.
two or three cryptos on WhatsApp in the last month.
Oh
Hi,
man,
I'm Susie Cream Cheese, and I've started this crypto investing group. Love to have you be a part of it. And
I
I'm
am
like, oh,
always
give
in
me a
there.
break.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's like stop it. I'm the boomer cynic. I'm like, no, come on. This is obviously
Yeah,
just
so
some
maybe Gen
random.
X is, maybe Pete can speak to Gen X cynicism might protect you a little bit. Maybe we
Yeah,
need some of that.
Gen X, we're just all angry.
And how badly the
Gen
boomers
Z is
fucked it
just
up
all
for you.
happy. But on the
Yeah,
elderly side and the Gen Z side,
yeah,
the boomers and X, well, boomers will talk to anybody. Because I mean, well, seriously, they're lonely and they want to pick up. Because look, everybody's got an aunt or an uncle that got scammed. Okay, at least
yeah,
$500 with the Geek Squad. Because that, I mean, you can Google that stuff and you come up with like legit URLs. I mean,
yeah.
it's very very hard. So
I agree.
they're wanting to talk to somebody or they're wanting to trust to somebody, and then on the Gen Z side, or even Y, one of them won't look you in the eye and the other don't like to talk on the phone. So how does this, isn't that
Yeah,
how that goes? Like, and why is that? Because they're staring at the iPad?
John Oliver said he thinks loneliness, or their report, they think loneliness and Gen Z is, they don't go out as much.
That's right.
They're not as active with friends, and they don't date, they don't
Yeah,
drive. That's
yeah.
another thing. They're driving less. That's been over a decade now. So, and oh, by the way, they're the first majority introvert generation. They're for the first time, there's a gen of kids that is less interested in people than other things.
Yeah.
So I think that's going on. But here's another angle. This is why I say it's I have a study here. It says people with mental health problems are 3 times more likely than the rest of the population to fall victim to online scam. And we are always hearing Gen Z susceptible to anxiety, depression. Um, and there was an awful case I heard in the news there. So there's some word for it. It's some scam involving sexting, but somebody will show interest in you. I've heard it called maybe it's a wrong number scan. Hey, is this Jessica's number? And they know it's not Jessica. And then you get to know them. This happened to a friend of mine. He was telling me about, because I've been talking about this with people. But this young man, unfortunately, like 13 years old, they say, and they even text you lewd photos, and then they say, please send me yours. And so he did. And then they say, send us this much money or we're going to send this to all your friends.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, this 13-year-old boy, he took his own life.
Suicide. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this has happened multiple times.
Yeah.
So I wonder if it is, yes, everybody's been scammed. We're all human. I get it. But I think there's a signal here that maybe some of this stuff is going up because we're isolated, like you said, or because we're anxious and depressed.
Yeah, and it's a far reach for me to say these are mental health issues. I mean, they are, of course, but it's like it's loneliness, it's anomie, it's social isolations, it's lack of trust in our institutions. There's so much going on now that are forcing human beings to really just go inward and say, I don't want anything to do with any of this.
Yeah.
And of course, they still biologically, you still need it. We are social creatures. We need some outlet for it. And it ends up being some idiotic, Slovenian fat man. Sorry, apologies to all fat men in Slovenia.
It's terrible.
I can emails
who pose as some, hot Japanese girl, with cleavage, which is the picture you're getting. And I've had any number of them. Hi, what are you doing tonight? Like, what are you talking? You actually think that I'm going to respond to that? Hi, what are you doing tonight? And I have had the one where I've had the wrong number one. Hi, is this Bill? I'm trying to reach a Bill. I've had that one too. And
the crappy one is, hey, hi, your child's been in an accident.
Oh God, yeah. Oh Jesus, yes. In London, yeah. I'm in London. I'm trapped in a
that's terrible.
$7,500.
What else is on the list there, Anthony? I'm getting depressed.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I was going to try to push back a little bit and just say, I don't know. Like we said, the elderly, they are getting taken more on these scams, and sometimes maybe, I mean, that is the age they're going to be facing some decline. So I was just wondering, is there an angle here where you can get your parent checked out or your friend? You can consider something like brain brightening to bring in a neurofeedback angle. Like, do we have to just, I don't know that I'm bringing this up because I don't know that we need to just accept, well, yeah, when you get older, you get taken advantage of, or that,
No, you're 100% right. There are things that can be done. Yes, neurofeedback would be very useful. Infrared helmet, infrared light therapy, very useful for cognitive decline. Generally speaking, you don't have to have a diagnosable condition. Put the helmet on your head every day.
Yeah, thanks, man. Have you helped people recover any of that function, like maybe an elderly person, or have you seen that in your own experience? Because that's newer for me.
Not yet. We don't deal with a lot of elderly. I've had a handful over the years. I had a couple of guys in their 70s and 80s, not very common. The bulk of our clientele are female, 30 to 50.
Okay.
With their anxiety disorder. That's the bulk.
That's interesting. I always hear from practitioners that the ADHD children tend to be the demographic. And so that's not been your...
It was for me for a decade. And something happened in my career. I don't know. Well, I mean, I know what happened. I went to work with a trauma psychiatrist. So my population of people changed dramatically. I mean, I had my own story about my own daughter. It was very, people got it. It was very evocative. So I got a lot of people on the spectrum and ADD. That's what I did literally for a decade. And then it transitioned into the population of people shifted. I have a handful of kids, 2 or 3 maybe, but the bulk of them are grown-up women usually. Guys don't get treatment for anything. So.
Yeah, guys probably take care of their mental health less, don't they always?
Oh yeah, absolutely, without question.
grin and bear it or something.
Yeah. It was good enough for my dad. It's good enough for me. Whatever. I don't know. I don't know. They're thinking about it. It's just the way I am. Or it's like, dude, your relationship's falling apart. You want to do something about it because you're a hair trigger a-hole. It's like, it's like you don't have to live this way, but maybe they like it that way. A lot of men, especially successful men, value
Mhm.
their what I would consider almost pathological problems. You know,
Mm.
Santiago Brand was talking about this on a thing the other day, or maybe it
Okay.
was here. I think it was here. And he was talking about consulting with and working with high performing executives and et cetera, where he would
And
say to
Josh
them,
too.
yeah, and he would say
Sure.
to them, part of the skill set that made you a successful person is damaging your life. Which one are you going to pick?
Wow.
And he said,
Mhm.
they pick their life. They quit
That
their
was
job.
surprising.
They resign from their company. They
Hmm.
get out of what they were doing because they ultimately decide my family and my relationship with my wife, whatever, is worth more to me than all the money I could make at this. And I was so heartened by that. I've
Yeah.
had one guy in my life that I actually turned down for neurofeedback. He was an arbitrage trader, and he was working literally 24 hours a day. He'd sleep an hour or two here or there. He traded
Mm.
in Hong Kong, he traded in London, he traded in New York, he traded in, all of Singapore. He traded all over the planet, literally 24 hours a day, because his business was finding half a penny on a trade, and that was how he made money. But you had to do it
Hmm.
instantly. You had to be on it all the time. This wasn't an
Wow.
investor. This was an arbitrage trader. And he said, "Well, can you help me?" And I help you what?
Mm.
So I need to sleep better.
Mm.
My temper is out of control. I'm anxious all the time. Blah, blah, blah. And I said, dude, no, you have to quit that job. I mean, that's the
Wow.
bottom line. I can't fix that. You cannot
Hmm.
work 24 hours a day. It's not a job for a human being. It's a job for a computer.
Yeah.
This is 15 plus years ago before they had computer driven, purchases like that. I'm sure a computer could do it better than he could. He's probably out of a job now,
Yeah, maybe.
but, or dead, because he was gonna.
Mhm.
He was 40 years old. He said, "But I make so much money. I understand. That's your life choice that you need to make right now. You're going to die early. I'm telling you right now. You're sleeping 4 or 5 hours a night total
Mhm.
in 45-minute grabs. You're eating food out of a vending machine. Come
Mhm.
on." This is not a way to have life be. I don't care how much money you make.
John, I have stories about that. I'm glad you brought up the men not bonding content. And then about the type, like high performance personality types. I have a friend, and I hope people know that if I talk about a group I'm going to talk about, that doesn't mean I think it of every member, but there may be predispositions among doctors. So I have a
Mhm.
female friend. She only dates doctors. And I have a close MD friend. And one of the things he says to me is, he says, I almost think that you need to be detached and dissociated to do this job.
I agreed.
He told me that and residency was rougher for him. It was rough. It's probably hopefully rougher than the day to day, but it was rough. And he said, "Man, I am maximally detached right now." He's like, he goes, "I like to watch horror movies because it's one of the few times I can feel during the day."
Mm.
And he has now he works in oncology, so that's known as a harder. But
Yeah.
anyway, so she dates these men. This is another friend. She dates them, and it tends to end because they are not emotionally responsive.
Right.
And that's not to say that you have to be a doctor, et cetera. I don't know. But we've heard these things. Steve Jobs wasn't very sensitive. He was probably not. So I think that the high performance probably does rob you of something. And I do wonder, is there a way? That's why I asked that question of Santiago, by the way, about, okay, Santiago, I know that maybe, let's say having mu helps this person, but does it help them in the rest of their life?
Right.
Because I'm not a huge sports fan. Pete probably knows, but there's these documentaries on Netflix about Michael and Kobe. And if you watch those, I mean, I watched the Michael one. I was like, this doesn't make him look good. He's constantly criticizing people. And
Yeah.
with Kobe, I've heard people say Kobe, his teammates hated his guts, is
Yeah.
what I've heard. So I heard I heard a sports psychologist. I think it was like Dak Shepard's podcast or something. He was a psychologist for like the Timberwolves or something. He was currently working for an NBA team. And he said, again, there are caveats to this. Don't take this as gospel, but this is what he said. He said, Dax asked him, do you think that it's healthy to be that way? He said, I would never let your kids become a professional athlete. If you have the choice, don't do it. He's like, the things that I've seen, he says, you wouldn't believe it. So I don't know that I believe just because somebody's saying, oh, I'm healthy, I don't know that the titans of industry are all healthy. So,
I would
on the performance side of things.
We do not want to do psychological testing on all of them. Politicians, sports figures, titans of industry, actors. Oh, dear
Great
God.
example. Yeah.
Anybody who achieves that level of fame and fortune, there's something not right with them.
Yeah, imbalance.
Thank you. Yeah. Imbalance. A much better turn of phrase than something wrong with them. No, but there's something out of whack. Steve Jobs is a great example. Here's a guy who had a world at his fingertips, all the money in the world, and he's diagnosed with this horrible disease and then chooses not to treat it.
That was terrible.
And dies. You're like, what kind of a brain goes there?
Well, he treated it. I know better, but not with regular Western
That's
science.
what I'm saying. I was like, I'm going to ignore the history of science and do this thing over here. And he was dead in a year. You sort of go, okay, wow, all right. But there is something very singular and focused about what it requires to achieve that level. A Kobe, a Michael Jordan, a president of the United States. Joe Biden, as nice as he may seem, I'm sure has killer instincts somewhere. We're not seeing him now in his dotage, but he had to have. Trump, classic example, focused single-mindedly on the success of Donald Trump, to the exclusion of all else. I mean, can you imagine being his wife or his child? Shocking. But all these people have these profound imbalances in their psychic structure that the rest of us wouldn't tolerate.
What is
I picked out all men, and I shouldn't have, because there's plenty of women.
Go to Kamala if you want to play.
Exactly. No, absolutely. She has to be. You got to be ruthless to be successful in politics. Period. The end.
Yeah, the killer instinct.
You have to have it, or in life. I've resigned myself. I'm never going to be the most famous neurofeedback practitioner on the planet. I'm far too, rounded around the edges. I don't have that thing. Whatever. I'm not Dave Asprey.
I was in a Myers-Briggs forum.
Yeah.
Part of a fun test. ENTJ is known as the CEO type. They tend to be executive. And there was a post in there that I thought was really poignant. And the guy said, does anybody else feel this way? I feel like no matter how much I achieve, it's not enough. It's just not doing the next promotion, the next car, whatever, sounded fairly successful. He's not getting what he wants from it. And, I don't know where neurofeedback, I have some ideas where neurofeedback could come into that. But for instance, the high beta I always hear can be responsible for things like that.
Right.
But yeah, there's got to be, and they say that when people pass away, that their relationships are the more valuable.
Nobody's going to remember how much money you made.
No, and nobody says I wish I'd worked more. Or,
that's right, exactly.
So there's this thread right now in the forums that I hear people asking, how can I get into flow state more? I don't know if you've heard of flow.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah, it's like getting in the zone. I mean, it's the psychologist made up this. There's 5 criteria. Did you lose sense of time? Was it pleasurable? Did you do you feel like it's a good level of challenge? Like it's not too hard, not too easy. So flow is real valuable. But the guy, I always like to tell this, but the guy who coined the term flow, he's a famous psychologist that I can't pronounce his last name, but the wiki page, he's on it. He says, look, this is best seen as a tool. If everybody was in flow all the time, they'd be neglecting their friends and family and societal obligations all the time. Right. This is not something, and I've noticed in the maybe you can speak to this, in the neurofeedback community, I've met people who they appear like a high performer to me. They have some prestige already, and they're saying to me, could neurofeedback help me perform better? I just need to focus. And I'm thinking, you're already a lawyer or a doctor or whatever it is that so.
Well, everybody always every peak performer always wants more performance. Yes. I mean, Kobe was not satisfied being, rookie of the year. He wanted to win 8 championships. He
There
wanted to
you
beat
go.
he wanted to surpass Michael Jordan, whatever. There was always some mountain that he still needed to climb. I didn't know Kobe, so I can't speak to his interpersonal relationships.
Yeah, and
But he
RIP, I get
cheated
it.
on his wife. I mean, et cetera, et cetera. It's
Yeah.
it's like, all right, it's like, yeah, here's a girl, I can have her, sure, take her, because he could. It's like
Yeah, yeah.
his obviously his matrimonial vows didn't mean as much to him as they do to me. So I value that more than he did. I'm not downing the guy. I'm just saying that's just an observation. But flow state, this is Steve Kotler's entire business. He's got the flow state research collective, and you can go get trained in how to achieve flow state. But you're correct in pointing out it's not. The goal is to not be in flow state all the time. It's a skill you turn on when you need it.
Yes.
Like anything else, you got to go fly an aircraft. You better have that skill in that moment. When you're out with your family at a picnic, you don't need the skill set of flying a jet aircraft at Mach 3. Completely different things.
Exactly. So do you ever wonder about Tom Cruise's brain, by the way? Speaking of that, that's a high performer.
And well, he's 4 marriages in, so I think the history speaks for
point.
itself.
So that's the thing.
His daughter doesn't talk to him. There's wreckage there.
That's a good point. He's known, he's rebuilt his reputation, and I like his movies, but he's known. Every time I see him, the interviews, they will interview him and they'll ask the co-stars about him, or the host will just say, Tom, we heard that you, well, everybody knows he buys a cake every year, but he does all these special things for people he's famous for. They said that he carries stuff for the crew, and all his co-stars think he's fabulous. And I'm like, wow, this is really unusual that such a high performer seems to have this much empathy. But there's also sometimes you get a sense, is this just a little bit of a facade? And I don't know him personally, obviously, but that you're helping it compute for me. Yeah, he has in his personal relationships, there is some chaos there. So
a lot. My general observation, again, I don't know Tom Cruise. Pete,
course,
you can edit this out as you see fit.
Yeah,
okay. It means it's staying in.
I think his acts of kindness are completely calculated.
It feels sometimes, yes.
I think he is calculating always. I buy a cake, I do a good thing, I carry a thing for the crew, whatever. There's a calculation of this is going to look good for me. I don't think he's doing it to be a good person all by itself. I think there's a transactional element to it for him. I could be way wrong. I don't know the guy.
Yeah, and
it just feels like that.
Sometimes I wonder, so I've heard this about neurodivergent people, and I even have a friend who said this. They said, somebody asked them, why do you laugh that way? And they have a boisterous laugh, let's say. And in private, apparently that person confided, they said, well, I kind of always observed people laughing that way, and I thought it was the thing to do. And so this person is probably neurodivergent. And so I guess I go back and forth with someone like Tom Cruise. Is he emulating because he's trying to, blend in or manipulate, let's say, or is he emulating because he wants, maybe pro-social, wants connection, let's say.
Yeah, approval. There's a whole bunch of reasons, and none of them are crazy. If you don't have empathetic sense, if you can fake it, great.
Yeah.
I don't have a huge problem with that. You're not out murdering kittens, whatever. There's a whole bunch of downside to not having empathetic connection. So if what gets you through life and validates you is I'm going to create this sense of me being perceived as an empathetic person, I'm kind of okay with that. Because the alternative is you become a mass murderer, I guess.
Yeah, well, the church he's in might be, well, I don't know what I can say about them, but
well, it's the same thing with jabs. It's a coincidence. What they don't like Western medicine. They why do they go? What is on the EEG with all these high performers that are just bent to go one way?
Yeah,
because it's not just them. It's Jack Welch. It's any high performer in business. Their kids hate them because they were never around.
Really?
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering what's going on up there.
Well, again, I'm not a none of us here are
No,
psychologists.
but you
So
read the
that's
EEG.
well, no, I do. Well, I don't know if I'm going to see that in the EEG necessarily. Yeah, I don't know. There's more to being a human than just the EEG.
Okay.
You
Well,
know,
how about reverse
as
it?
good as
Yeah, sorry.
no, go ahead.
Have you
Which
seen, John, in your practices or dealings with people, have you seen somebody go through treatment and their empathy seemed to improve? And do you recall maybe what are some patterns that maybe accounted for that?
yes, definitely empathy improves. I use my
That's
own
good.
daughter as an example. She's on the
Oh,
spectrum.
wonderful.
Empathy is very challenging for her to put herself in the place of others. That's that T6 thing we keep talking about all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
So when you activate T6, as Jay described it quite well the other day, you turn the soil. I can't make somebody empathetic, but if you can activate that place where it now starts to resonate for them, they will inherently, from social interaction, become more empathetic. They'll be able to read the other. They'll be able to put themselves in the shoes of another person and understand how they might feel when Sheldon says, "But you look bad. What are you talking about? What's the
Yeah.
problem?" For him, it's just a scientific observation. He has no idea what the impact is of the person
Yeah.
receiving it. So when you till that soil, yes, they will become more empathetic as humans. That may not serve their life purpose
Hmm.
and their success in the world. It may actually detract from their success in the world. That's the Santiago brand version. It's
Yeah.
like as I become more empathetic and thoughtful of the feelings of other people, can I be the domineering captain of industry that I have been in my life? Probably not. Because you're going to go, yeah, I'm telling that guy I'm sorry, I don't care about your kid's birthday. You have to work this weekend. You
Mm.
know, the true captain of industry goes, I don't give a fuck about your kid's birthday. What does it mean to me? I need that report Monday. I don't give a shit what you have to do to get there.
Do you know that when Steve Jobs, they had like a 10-year anniversary at Apple campus a few years ago. It was like, what is it, 2021, 10 years later. And the CEO of Apple gave a speech. Tim Cook gave a speech about Steve Jobs. And I was eager to read this, and I'm thinking, what's he going to say at this memorial to memorialize this man? Do you know the only nice thing that he could think of to say about Steve, only nice story, is he said, one time we were in a meeting with Steve with about 20 people, and he just lost it on everybody. I mean, he just really gave it to him, and everybody knew that he'd flipped his lid too hard. He said, "Do you know that Steve went into the parking lot and he said he got in his car and he cried?"
Oh,
That is the best story that Tim Cook could think. He didn't say he apologized. He didn't say
right.
he made it up to the team. So yeah, exactly. I'm
Okay.
glad
All
to
right.
know he
Well,
cries. Something probably there's something in there, but
yeah,
he
it's
doesn't let people see it. Yeah,
it spoke to a
it's
certain
sad.
level of self-awareness, but not the true empathetic response to apologize for his action. That's fascinating. That's a really good story, Anthony.
Exactly. I thought it was
Wow.
peculiar. I was like, wow, this is literally the best story. Because I was literally keeping my eye, because I've been thinking about these things about the high performers for years now.
Yeah.
But on the empathy aspect and being neurodivergent. So the friend of mine that is dating, she dates MDs. She's dating someone now, and she was discussing with me after trying to use, I guess you would call it therapy speak to resolve conflict, reflective listening and emotionally intelligent language, let's say. She would even have ChatGPT type out for scripts for him that he would say, I don't understand. What do you want me to say? And she would send him, well, this would be a sample, an example of emotion. And he wasn't getting it. And she said that and I agree with her. His verbiage would be like, I don't get it. I still don't understand. I just don't understand. And I told her it feels almost like a cognitive or a physiological, the things we talk about, neurophysiology.
Yeah.
Now, she's a psychology graduate, and she's getting a nursing practitioner. She's a doctor of nursing. So she is good at she loves psychology, and she's good at in researching. So she said, her reaction was, I think I'm going to investigate ways to sort of teach him better, or to connect with anybody I suspect of being neurodivergent. And what I told her was, and I haven't made much headway yet, was maybe investigate the neurophysiology too. She's been a hard
Hmm.
sell on this. But I say that, John, because I had the experience you have, where someone very close to me underwent neurofeedback, and I'm not having to explain to them as much things that are sympathy,
Yeah.
conveying compassion or empathy or apologizing even.
Right.
After this individual started neurofeedback, they started apologizing for the first time and saying thank you more often. So
Yeah.
I do think I wanted to say to my friend, I said the neurophysiology, when you get it right, is going to be more impactful than what I'm seeing you're working on. But yeah, so look at the neuro.
Master and his emissary.
I love it. I love it. Go on.
Yeah, no, just I mean that sort of encapsulates a lot of this conversation in many ways. The sort of the difficulty we as humans have, reconciling our left brain and our right brain, and we've had 150 years of left brain dominance at this point.
Yes.
And look where it's got us.
I
You know,
love that you've read that. Hmm.
yeah. Well, red is a big word.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
I've,
I've listened.
I've
I've listened to his talks as
Yeah,
well.
I've attempted to read. It's 600 pages, man.
All right. I'm in the forward, but
Oh, you're still okay. Fair enough. Yeah, you're probably farther in than I am. But I
I
mean,
listened
I
to,
understand the thesis of it enough to
yeah.
say, he's onto something here that we all need to be aware of culturally. That this left brain dominance is not as useful to us as we think, because we're foregoing all of those sensitivities that make us actual human beings.
Hmm.
There are machines who can do our left brain work way better than we can.
There was a
And I
psychologist.
haven't seen a machine yet that's going to do the right brain work.
That was an excellent point. I had not considered that about gosh, if you don't do your job with empathy, if you're as a doctor, if you are just a person who spits out a diagnosis or recommends a treatment, is that really what you're useful? Is that really useful in an age of AI?
AI is coming for you.
And exactly. And I read this article recently that what wisdom really is, like we all know people who are smart, but what wisdom is it includes the empathy and the
Yeah.
social context.
Yeah.
Um, it is not we all know Sheldon is not wise,
Right.
to use a big bang. He's a bulldozer,
Yeah. He's super
so
smart.
yeah. You mentioned to me Les Femi and the open focus meditation.
Right.
And I heard Jay just talk about it on the podcast with Pete about it came out a couple days ago and it was 2 weeks ago, the podcast thing. Anyway, I didn't realize that there was a guy, I don't know if it was Femi or another one. He took the focus idea and he used it in couples counseling. And he had the people talking to each other.
Hmm.
And when they would get triggered, they're in the open focus meditation. And so I sounded like, just from listening to Jay, that's all I know at this point, is they didn't get as triggered and it helped to change their association. The reason I mentioned it is Master and Emissary is about right brain, left brain. And Jay even talks about the emotion is on the right brain. Well, the right brain, the Master and Emissary book, it says that's responsible for your social emotion and your primary. So I wonder if when you know how they say that lawyers don't stop their job when they come home, they bring the job home. So everything is an argument. Everything's a legal case to be won.
Right.
Maybe when the people are in this open focus, which the right brain is open focus, according to the book, that they're now thinking with their emotion and they're no longer, how can I trump them? How can I win or bring something? Just wanted to throw that.
It's gonna make
You've
them
heard that.
terrible lawyers. So what I mean,
To be a terrible lawyer.
well,
Okay.
that you have to suit yourself you have to suit yourself to there's job. Oh God, I have three doctors in my family, so I'm
Oh,
very
wow.
familiar.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with their left brain dominance.
There you go.
My sister is an exquisite diagnostician. She's really good at pulling together various threads of fact and putting them into a context of saying, well, it could be this, it could be that. It shocks all of us, and I'm sure disturbs her as well. She's seeing horrible things that the rest of us don't see.
Oh,
But
yeah.
they have, and again, most doctors that I know, that their defense around being less emotional, it puts yourself in their shoes. Can you imagine being a pediatric oncologist? Just use that as an example. Your entire population are 6-year-olds who are going to die.
Yeah.
Where do you? I couldn't do it. I absolutely couldn't do it, even if I had the knowledge. I couldn't do that job. It'd kill me. They have to remove themselves from that empathy position because it will kill them. And it will also interfere with their ability to be good doctors.
Yeah.
In my view, that they're gonna be led astray by some emotional content of the family member, or the mom who's there weeping or whatever, and all they need to do is drill down on what's the technique that I can apply to this situation that might help this child. They cannot concern themselves with that crying parent, the devastation that they're about to face. It would destroy them as human beings if they allowed it in, and it probably would impair their ability to be good doctors. So God bless them. I am so grateful. Cops, I have being a cop is really hard. You got to walk into an apartment building where a guy's just, beating up his wife and murdered his baby. And you got to put this guy in handcuffs. Fuck that. I'm shooting the guy. That's done. It's like, I don't know. There's no earthly reason he's going downtown with me in the back of a car. You see what I'm saying? I know my right brain would take over. I would be a terrible policeman. So I really appreciate the fact that there are 90+% of them are really good at making that division. It's not helping them at home, I'm sure.
Compartmentalize. Yeah, right.
The divorce rate for cops, I got to think, is pretty high.
So, Anthony, what's trending in your chat?
Pete desperately wants to get out of this conversation.
Oh, you can go, but it's
I think I got. Well, let me. That's kind of what
This was not the show you were thinking of, Pete, was it?
Hey, whatever.
No. Be honest. It's okay. This is just us here.
The way I like to do these podcasts is a bunch of people getting around, just like we're having a couple drinks, and we're talking about blank. And this blank is mental health with neurofeedback, and somebody. Who knows what Google's going to trigger out there in the algorithm? So the more that we put out there, the more...
Anthony, I could get on the phone and just do this.
Yeah, right.
We don't want to. We want you want your show to have a purpose and a theme. I get it.
You're on the show, so there is a purpose and a theme. That's it.
I guess fair enough. I am sitting here.
No, just to close it up. Back to school. We covered that in the Q&A, and Anthony, any other trending things, please let me know. We'll put it in the descriptions. And if there's anything relevant you want me to cut out, please give me the timestamps or anything that we left on the side. Please email pete@neuronoodle.com.
Yeah.
Anthony Ramos, John Mekrut. Another episode on Using Notes. Cha-cha-cha, baby.
All right. Thank you, man.
All right, boys. Take care.
All right. You're still.
The NeuroNoodle Network podcast is brought to you by listeners and viewers just like you.